Welcome to the Saul's Newsstand News Review for March 13th, 2020. Fox News reports, Trump announces travel ban from Europe amid growing fear of coronavirus. President Trump on Wednesday announced in a televised address that the U.S. is suspending all travel from Europe to the U.S. for 30 days, beginning Friday at midnight, in an effort to slow the spread of coronavirus. The president struck a serious tone during this address from the Oval Office and said, quote, "We made a life-saving move with early action on China. Now we must take the same action with Europe." His address came hours after the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 virus a global pandemic, and the number of confirmed cases in the U.S. climbed to more than 1,200. Trump said the new travel exemptions do not apply to the United Kingdom. A European diplomat told Reuters that the White House did not notify European officials before the televised address. Shortly after Trump made the announcement, Saudi Arabia announced that it would ban travel to and from the European Union. The proclamation applies to humans, not goods and cargo, a White House official told Fox News. Those transporting goods will not be admitted into the country, but the goods will be. Trump later signed a presidential proclamation that suspends the entry of most foreign nationals who visited certain European countries in the past 2 weeks. The suspension does not apply to legal permanent residents, according to the statement. An article from Fox Business states, Florida retirees worry Sanders' health care plan could hit wallets. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All proposal is sparking controversy among retirees in the all-important battleground state of Florida. 2 out of 10 Florida residents are over 65 years old, and 8.4 million residents receive Medicare or Medicaid benefits. However, some Floridians aren't thrilled with the health care plan proposed by Sanders, who vowed on Wednesday to continue his 2020 presidential bid despite losing primaries in Michigan and 3 other states the night before. The 2020 Democratic field has narrowed to what is essentially a 2-man race between Sanders and former Vice President Joe Biden. Florida residents will vote in the state's Democratic primary on March the 17th. Sanders wants to scrap private plans in favor of expanding health coverage to everyone. Sanders said at a rally in Minnesota, quote, "Whether they like it or not, we will pass a Medicare for All single-payer program." Florida residents like Mietta Bernstein say some candidates aren't considering the cost a policy like Medicare for All would have on seniors. She went on to say, quote, "When you talk about Medicare, you don't want all the old people paying for all the young people who don't need it. We want all the Medicare for us because we're old and we need it." Right now, experts don't know exactly how much Medicare for All would cost. Studies say it could be $13 trillion or as much as $36 trillion over a decade. And finally, an op-ed from the Daily Wire states, "So much for Bernie's secret weapon. Young people aren't voting." For decades, political pundits and pollsters have talked about, quote, "the youth vote." The problem is, the youth don't show up at the polls. Even in the midst of the Vietnam War, when President Richard M. Nixon was harangued daily over the unpopular ground war, the youth didn't turn out. Nixon won re-election in a landslide in 1972, taking every state but Massachusetts and defeating his opponent in the Electoral College by a vote of 520 to 17. That's a thumping. And now comes Bernie and Biden. Bernie, unlike Joe, supposedly draws massive support from the youngsters. He has, the mainstream media say, tapped into the youth vote. But Super Tuesday was anything but super. According to results from the NBC News exit poll released at around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, 2 hours before the first poll closings in eastern states, only 13% of Democratic voters in the Super Tuesday primaries were between the ages of 18 and 29. However, voters between the ages of 45 and 64 came in at 35%, while voters 65 years and older hit 29%. Combined, that's nearly 5 times as many voters 45 and up than 18 to 29. It's a long way to November 3rd, After a nap in their parents' basement, maybe the youthful will turn out at the polls. And that concludes your Saul's Newsstand News Review for March 13th, 2020. For more political news faster, visit saulsnews.com.